this video presentation forming part of our virtual sixth form induction at Waldegrave. For those of you who don't know me already, my name is Mr Bannister. I'm a history teacher and also head of sixth form at Waldegrave. During the course of this presentation, I'm going to be talking to you about what life is like in the sixth form, the various forms of support that we will have in place to help you through your sixth form journey, and also to explain some of the arrangements for enrolment in the summer. But before I get into the details of the presentation, I first of all want to begin by saying how pleased I am to be able to talk to you, how excited we are to welcome you into our sixth form community in September, and I also want to acknowledge how challenging the last few months must have been for you. I know that lots of you will have been disappointed that you weren't able to celebrate the culmination of your Year 11 experience in the usual way. I know that there will be lots of you who will be disappointed that you worked so hard throughout the course of Year 10 and the beginning of Year 11 and then have not been able to prove yourself in the exams as you would have expected. And I know there will be lots of you who've found it difficult to stay motivated, remain active and keep in a routine without the focus provided by schoolwork. As a result of that, I'm sure there are lots of you who are also feeling slightly anxious about the prospect of starting sixth form and have lots of questions about what that's going to be like and how it's going to work. Please rest assured that we're working very hard as a sixth form team and as a wider staff body to make sure that your transition to A-level is as smooth as possible, that you have a really positive start in September, and that you aren't disadvantaged by this period of time that you spent out of school. I hope this video presentation and the experience that you're getting of the A-level subjects that you're interested in will start that process of making you feel welcome in the sixth form and giving you the confidence that once we do get started, everything is going to be all right. And that process will continue with our enrolment in the summer, with our induction in September. So, with that sentiment in mind, let's move on to the detail of the presentation. So, for us, also the aims for this induction event, firstly to find out what life is like in the sixth form and the A-level courses that you're interested in, so getting an overview of sort of how they're structured, the key content and skills and so on, understanding some of our processes and routines in the sixth form. We also want you to learn about the process for sixth form enrolment in the summer, and that's all really about the logistics and reassuring you how the process will work. And finally, to learn how you will be supported with your transition to A-level, which can always be a tricky process, but has the potential to be especially challenging following this period of absence that you've all had from school. So those are the aims for our induction, both this presentation and the taste that you're getting of your A-level subjects as well. So for us as a sixth form, we have a very clear core vision which really underpins everything that we're doing. So our sixth form vision is that at Waldegrave, we want to ensure that our students enjoy a love of learning, achieve their aspirations and feel empowered to become the leaders of and contributors to a better society. So that vision's been at the heart of everything that we've done as a sixth form since the moment we opened 6 years ago. It informs our planning, it's how we judge that we're making the right decisions, it gives us something to strive towards, it's there in your teachers' minds when they're planning their curriculum and working out what they're going to do with you in the lessons, it's how we drive forward improvement of our sixth form, and hopefully it's something for you to aspire to as well. And when you leave the sixth form in a couple of years' time, hopefully you'll be able to look again at that vision and feel like that you have met those kind of goals yourself. So if we break it down a little bit, the first part is all about an enjoyment or a love of learning. And that's one of the great things about sixth form, is that you're studying a very small number of subjects. Most of you will be studying 3 subjects, a small number may be studying 4. And you will have made a positive decision to choose those subjects. And in many cases, you'll have chosen to do them twice, once at GCSE and then again for A-level. And hopefully what that means is that you're really doing subjects that you're passionate about, that you want to learn about. And that will help to make the work that you're doing independently and the time you spend in lessons really enjoyable. The second part of the vision is about achieving your aspirations. Partly that's your aspirations in terms of what you want to achieve with your results. We hope you will get fantastic exam results. But beyond that, it's about achieving your aspirations in terms of the kind of person you want to be, um, the kind of university that you want to go to, the course you want to study, the apprenticeship you want to apply for, the career path you want to go down. And the final component of that vision is feeling empowered to become a leader of or a contributor to a better society. And that's another vital part of the sixth form experience. When you leave us in a couple of years' time, you're going to be young adults going out into the wider world. And we want you to do so caring about your community, feeling confident and assured of who you are as a person, knowing what's important to you, having a sense of moral purpose, knowing the difference between right and wrong, and being willing to stand up for sort of what you believe in. And the way we hope to get you there is through exposing you to the right kinds of experiences, giving you the right kind of opportunities, skills to really become the best version of yourself when you're leaving us. So that vision's at the heart of everything. The team who are implementing it are a really, really great group of staff with lots of energy, enthusiasm, commitment to young people, to the sixth form, and lots of expertise as well. So introducing you to the key people within our sixth form team. The sixth form was opened 6 years ago by Mrs. Page, the deputy head teacher. She crafted that vision that we've just looked at, and is still very much involved in the strategic planning for the sixth form, supporting me in my work, making sure that we're sticking to that vision. My role as head of sixth form is the strategic planning of the sixth form, trying to constantly make it a better place for us to be together and to learn, and also the day-to-day operational running of the sixth form. And a big part of that job is also being there for you. My office is on the ground floor of the sixth form, just off the study base. You'll see me every day, and you're always welcome to come and say hello, to come and ask for help. Someone who's very important in your life in the school is your head of year, and you're very lucky to have Mr. Stavru as your head of year. He will be joining us in September as a new appointment, and he is extremely enthusiastic about taking up that role and absolutely committed to giving you the best possible sixth form experience. And he's going to be joining us in our social sciences department. So if you're studying psychology or sociology, you may have him as a teacher as well. Miss Pugh is our head of year 13, and she's been part of our sixth form team for a few years now. Although she'll primarily be dealing with the year above you, she's another friendly face in the sixth form, and she'll always be very happy to help you if you ever need any support as well. One of the defining features of our sixth form is that everyone is part of a tutor group and has a form tutor who they see every day. We're not in a position to tell you who those form tutors are at the moment. You'll find out which tutor group you're part of in our induction in September, but they will be a really important part of your life and a constant presence throughout your sixth form experience. Our admin team also play a very important role in the smooth running of the sixth form and in supporting you. They're led by Mrs. Everett, who's our sixth form manager, and she works very closely with the rest of her team, Mrs. Ridgely, Mrs. Allen, and Mrs. Hughes. You will see them sat behind the desks at sixth form reception. Some of you may have come in and spoken to them before when we were going through our process of interviewing everybody. And their role is very varied and very important. They're really the unsung heroes of our sixth form. They play an important role in supporting the heads of years and the form tutors in tracking attendance, punctuality, behaviour. They're answering the phones, dealing with all the email traffic that comes in, looking after the premises and facilities for us, supervising the study base and some of our other communal work areas. They help us with lots of the admin for trips and events, and they're also there to answer your questions. They have all the information that you will ever need about anything, and they're also there to look after you. So if you're not having a great day, you're a little bit upset, they're always friendly faces, and they're always happy to spend some time with you and make you feel comfortable. We also have our academic and pastoral mentors, Mrs. King and Mrs. Gonzalez, and they are there to provide help to students when you're struggling a little bit with your work, you're not quite making the academic progress that you would hope for. That's our core sixth form team. Those people are in the building sort of all the time, and you'll see them every day. We then have a wider team, really, of other support staff who work in the main school, but also play a really important role in the running of the sixth form. So those are our careers advisors, Mrs. Holmes and Miss Mayer, who you can have an appointment with at any time, our exams officer, Mrs. DeRose, who can deal with all your queries around examinations, and our inclusion team, led by Miss Salisbury, supporting students with EHCPs. So that's the sixth form team, and as I said, they're a fantastic group, and they're really at the heart of what makes the Waldegrave sixth form so special. In terms of a typical day for you as a student, the best way to understand that really is by looking at a timetable. So what you'll see here is it's an 8:45 start every day. The mornings are the same throughout the week, so we have period 1 and 2, break, period 3, and then lunch. You'll notice that all the lessons are an hour long, so a period is quite a long session at Waldegrave, and you have these little 5-minute gaps between periods that are consecutive without a longer break. The afternoons vary a little bit depending on the day of the week. So after lunch on a Monday and a Tuesday, we have a shorter afternoon registration where you'll see your form tutor for sort of key announcements, and then we go into afternoon lessons. And one of the things that's different about sixth form compared to what you might have been used to from your experience up to year 11 is that the afternoon lessons go on for a little bit longer. As you will see in a moment when we sort of put some subjects onto a timetable and really see what your timetable would look like as a student, that doesn't mean that you'll always have lessons going on until that late in the afternoon, but you should be prepared to be on site and be working until a little bit later than you have been used to. The afternoons are slightly different on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So on those afternoons, we have a longer tutor time and fewer afternoon lessons, and we still have a 2:40 finish on a Friday, which is nice as well. So if we put some subjects into that, this is a sort of mock timetable, and this student is studying English, biology, and history, and you'll be able to see there that you have 4 periods for each subject in any given week. In year 13, there's an extra period, so you'll have 5 of them per subject, but it's 4 in year 12. There are a couple of other things to point out on there. You'll notice on a Wednesday afternoon, we have enrichment. That means there's no lessons happening for year 12, and instead we all join in a compulsory program of activities that are designed to give you those kind of wider experiences outside of lessons. And we'll talk in more detail about what enrichment involves in a little while. And you'll also see that we've got 12 work periods on the timetable there as well. And those are periods where you're not in lessons, but you are expected to be engaging in independent learning. And again, we'll talk in more detail about what that means in a moment. So one of the big decisions that you're in the process of making is choosing your A-level courses. And these are all the courses that we have on offer at Waldegrave. So there'll be lots of subjects there that you're very familiar with from GCSE, things like your sciences, English, maths, some of your humanities like geography or history, languages, your creative subjects. But there's also a few new things there as well. So we have economics, we have media studies, photography, psychology and sociology, which are new for A-level and you're unlikely to have done at GCSE. I know that choosing your A-level subjects, it seems like a really big decision. It can be quite daunting, and you probably feel under quite a lot of pressure to sort of not make the wrong decision. The best advice that I can give you is always to think about what are you best at and what do you enjoy. And those are often the kind of best guiding principles for you to make your choices. And you don't need to feel under any pressure at this moment. You're not being expected to make a choice right now. Hopefully this induction process and the experience you're going to get of your subjects will help you in that decision making. Please take the opportunity to ask your teachers to ask teachers questions or to get in touch with us and ask questions. You're also going to want to take your GCSE results into account when you're making your decisions about your course choices. So you're not having to make that decision now. You can still change your mind once you've seen your GCSE results. And when we enrol you in the summer, that process will involve you all having a conversation with a member of the leadership team where we can talk through any doubts or worries you have, answer questions, look at your GCSE results and make sure that you're really well supported in choosing your A-level courses. There are entry requirements for the courses, and these entry requirements are really there to protect you and to support you in making sensible decisions. So we're not necessarily asking for really top grades in order to access our courses. These entry requirements are a little bit like a safety net. They're there to make sure that you're choosing A-level subjects that you're going to be capable of doing really well at. And what we find is when people don't have these grades that we're asking for at GCSE is that they really will struggle with the A-level courses, and it's not really a wise decision to study them. So you will need to meet these entry requirements in order to be enrolled on the courses you want. You can see that for most subjects that you've had the opportunity to take at GCSE, you will need a grade 6 in order to then enroll on the A-level course. There are a few exceptions. Maths, you need a 7, further maths an 8, and that's because of the high level of difficulty on those courses. For the subjects that you haven't been able to do at GCSE, your social sciences, you need 5s in English and maths. Photography is a bit different as well. You need a 5 in art or DT and a portfolio of some pictures you've taken. And for media studies, 5s in English language and English literature. So one of the notable features of the timetable we looked at was the presence of work periods, which is not something that you will have been used to from your experience in school up to now. So you have 12 work periods per week on your timetable, and you'll notice that I'm calling them work periods and not free periods. And that's because they're not there to sort of give you a break during the day for you to relax, to socialise. They are really there for you to engage in independent learning, to be really sort of proactive in driving forward your academic progress. So we'd expect you to be productive during those periods. In order to kind of help you establish those good working habits and routines, to support you in developing that knowledge and understanding of how to do independent learning, we would normally keep Year 12 students on site during those work periods, certainly at the start of Year 12. And once we can see that good working habits have been established, you're using that time wisely, you're in a good routine, you're on track academically, we'll start to gradually give you a little bit more flexibility and freedom to leave the site and do that work elsewhere if you want to. We do have lots of resources and spaces to support you with that work. We have our study base, we have ICT rooms, we have designated quiet study rooms, we've got Chromebooks and tablets that you can borrow as well. So you'll notice that I keep using this sort of phrase, independent learning. You might be wondering what that means. Well, the A-level programme is designed on the basis that you're going to do 5 hours of independent work for every subject each week outside of your timetabled lessons. Some of that will be homework that's very much directed by your subject teachers, but it's not just doing your homework. It's a little bit more than that. It's about you sort of developing those independent study skills, being able to identify tasks that are going to have an impact on your learning for yourself, and kind of having the self-discipline, the self-motivation to get on with those. So a good framework for understanding how to do independent learning effectively is to think about preparation, consolidation, practice, and revision. So we will often ask you to prepare for your lessons in those work periods. So that might be looking at the topics that are coming up and doing some pre-reading, so you have a foundation of knowledge before you go into the lesson. You can consolidate after the lessons by making sure you've finished off any tasks, reading back through your notes, adding extra detail, highlighting the key information that you've written down. You can practice, so that means practicing your skills for your given subjects. So you might practice what you've covered in the lesson by doing an exam question on it. And finally, revision. So rather than revising at the end once you've learnt everything, we encourage you to revise as you go. So if you are someone who likes to make revision notes, rather than saving that until the course is finished or until a few weeks before exams at the end of a year, I would always suggest that you write your revision notes as you go. You have a lesson, the next day you write your revision notes on it, and so on. So independent learning is something that we'll really come back to, and we'll do lots of work with you around study skills in the start of term in September. One of the key resources that helps you to manage your own learning is a personal learning checklist, or a PLC. And this is something that you'll have for all of your subjects, and it's really a list of all the topics that you're going to be learning, broken down into different sections or the different units. So it shows you how the A-level course is organised, and it also shows you exactly what you're going to be studying within it. So it's really useful for understanding how far through a course you are, what you've still got to come, what you're going to be learning next, what you've just done. And it also gives you the opportunity to sort of rate your level of understanding on different topics in order to then plan your revision and decide what you need to focus on in your independent learning. I mentioned that outside of your lessons, another key part of the week in Year 12 is Enrichment. This is a programme of activities we run every Wednesday afternoon for Year 12 students, and we do all sorts of different things during Enrichment. So in the autumn term, we're going to really focus on volunteering, and that's about contributing to the community, developing a sense of moral purpose. So it might mean you going off-site to do some charity work that you've organised for yourself, or it might mean volunteering within the school, working as a teaching assistant to support in some lower school lessons. And I think given all the kind of events that we've seen over recent months, there's never been a sort of more important time to give something back to our school community and our local community. In the Spring term, we're going to focus on activities, so we'll have a whole program of different things on for you, various clubs, sports-based things, more academically focused stuff, some creative clubs as well. And then in the final summer term, we're really focused on progression. So it's all about academic intervention to support you in getting ready for exams, looking after your emotional well-being as we reach the end of the year, and starting to prepare for applying to university through UCAS, finding out about apprenticeships and various career options as well. And enrichment really is meant to be a highlight of the week. It's a great opportunity to enjoy yourself, to do something a bit different, to make friends with people who you might not necessarily do the same subjects as, and so you wouldn't see them otherwise. And it's also about developing wider interests, trying new things, developing new passions, new skills. And all of these things that we do in enrichment really help to enhance applications that you'll make to university, apprenticeships, and employment in the future. Another constant presence on your timetable is tutor time. I've already mentioned that you'll be allocated to a tutor group and you'll see your form tutor every afternoon. And they're a really important figure in your life in sixth form. They'll be the first person to offer you academic support and personal support if you're having a hard time. They're responsible for monitoring your academic progress, for writing your UCAS reference, and for taking you through our tutorial program. We follow the statutory Ofsted guidance for post-16 non-qualification, and that means that we're going to be taking you through lots of different things related to current affairs, to ethics, to mental and physical health, to kind of sex and relationships, all sorts of different topics that we will look at, study skills as well. And your tutor group are also sort of like your family at school, and there'll be lots of opportunity for kind of having fun and doing different things in that tutor time as well. It is expected that every student will take an active part in the tutor programme. It's not an optional element. If you come to Waldegrave, you have to go to tutor time, and we expect you to throw yourself into that and make the most of it. We do invite lots of guest speakers in and do all sorts of different workshops as well during that time to support your progress. So that's tutor time. Another important part of your life in the sixth form is that we have a cafe. So I can promise you that your sort of consumption of Capri-Sun and cookies will go up when you join the sixth form. Those tend to be the most popular items. But we have a cafe in the sixth form building that's exclusively for the use of sixth form students. And that's just giving you a little bit of freedom to decide at exactly what point in the day you want to have something to eat or to drink, treating you a little bit more like an adult. And having that cafe on site is also part of the reason why we're able to keep you there in your work periods. You don't need to go off site and sort of walk down the road in order to get something to eat or drink. Outside of school, you will also need to do some work at home, and now's a really good time to start thinking about how to prepare for working at home. And having the right working environment is really, really important. I've been having to do some work from home myself during this lockdown, and I can say that sitting on your bed and working isn't the best way of doing it. That often leads to you falling asleep. So what you want to do is create a really good working environment for yourself. So making sure you've got some kind of desk or workspace, Wi-Fi access, if possible, and access to sort of electronic resources. But the basics as well, having notepads, textbooks, stationery, folders for all your subjects, some kind of planner. That might be a physical diary, it might be a kind of organizational app. I'm really thinking about what we call zoning. So having separate areas for different tasks within your room or your house. So kind of having a zone that's for sleeping, your bed, and then a separate zone that's for working or for socializing, so that you learn to associate particular areas within your room or your house for those different purposes. And that really helps you to concentrate when you're working, and it also helps you to sleep better when you're trying to do that as well. So that's a consideration for you over summer, is how do you set up your home to be able to work really effectively. In terms of judging your academic progress and making sure that you are progressing in the way you want, we do have a program of assessment and monitoring. So there'll be reports going home at regular intervals throughout the year to your parents, but they're as much for you as they are for your parents. The exact dates are to be confirmed, but we normally have a health check in October. So that's quite early in the year, and that's just really to see how you've settled in, both on a personal level and in terms of your learning. And we might have some support meetings with some of you and with some of your parents if any sort of concerns are raised at that point. In December, we'll be having some mock exams. Those are not something to be really, really worrying about. They're not something we're expecting you to do any work for at this stage. They're really an information gathering process to understand how well you've adjusted to learning at A-level and to then make plans for how we can support you moving forward. In January, we'll then have monitoring, which is when we send home sort of predicted grades and comments from the teachers telling you how to improve. We'll have our parents' evening, which we call PCM, and we'll have further support meetings. In April and May, we'll have end of year exams, and we'll have further monitoring of the results of those exams in May. So that's the sort of assessment and monitoring calendar. You'll have noticed throughout that I mentioned support meetings a lot, and that's an important part of how we support your academic progress. So whenever we do a monitoring cycle, teachers may raise you as requiring some additional support, and they'll raise that sort of concern on the basis of attendance and punctuality, your ability to meet deadlines, and your organisation. If you're raised as needing support in one subject, you'll have a conversation with your subject teachers and they will agree interventions with you in that particular subject area. If you're needing support in more than one subject, we will organise a support meeting with either your head of year or myself, your parents and you, and we'll agree an individual action plan there to really help get you back on track. That's not intended to be a punishment at all. It's an entirely supportive process. It's about treating you as a young adult, making you really aware of the problems you're facing, listening to your experience as well, and then all of us working as a team of people who care about you and want you to do as well as possible to find solutions to the problems you might be facing. Another mechanism we have for supporting you in your learning is overtime. Overtime is a study session that takes place at the end of the school day that we invite specific students to attend to support your learning. So we have two different types of overtime. The main type is study support overtime, and that's intended as a supportive measure, and it's a way of encouraging you to catch up on missing work, to complete additional tasks, to have a little bit of extra intervention with your subject teachers. So you would stay behind for 2 hours after your last lesson at the end of a particular day, and you'd have some tasks to be getting on with at school. We also have a supervised overtime. That's a little bit more strictly governed. You'll have to be in a particular room, working in silence, and we might use that in very rare occasions as a sanction if your behaviour has not been up to the expected standards. And we also use that supervised overtime if you're not really engaging in the study support overtime in the way that we would want you to as well. So overtime is another supportive process. It's about encouraging you to put in a few extra hours with your work so that you can really move forward. Another form of support we have in the sixth form is our academic mentoring. So we have two academic mentors in the sixth form, Mrs. King and Mrs. Gonzalez. They're teaching assistants with a real expertise in A-level study, and they're there to offer support to particular students, so targeted support when you're not making the academic progress that you would hope for. So they often run small group workshops around sort of exam technique, writing skills, organisation, revision, and things like that. They do also provide one-to-one support. So in some cases that will be weekly academic mentoring sessions. So you might have half an hour or an hour with them every week. There's drop-in support if it's sort of just something you need help with as a one-off. And as I said, they cover a range of different areas with you. So not all students will see the academic mentors, but they're an extra form of support there for you if you're having particular difficulties. We also have our inclusion team who support students with EHCPs. If you do have an EHCP and you haven't told us, please make sure you do so as soon as possible so that we can make sure we've got the right programme of support in place for you. Another form of support is our bursary, our 16 to 19 bursary fund, and that's a form of financial support for sixth form students. So if you're experiencing financial difficulty when you enrol, you'll be able to tell us that, and we will be able to sign you up for the bursary as long as you meet the sort of criteria for that. We have two different types of bursary, one for vulnerable students and then the discretionary bursary. And that can be used for all sorts of things to support your learning. So if you're eligible for the bursary, we can use that to cover the cost of school trips, to buy things like stationery, learning resources, all sorts of different things like that. So those are all the ways of supporting you, and we talked a lot about what your day will be like in sixth form. We're now moving on to some of the sort of policies, procedures, the kind of rules that we have. So one set of rules that's always a popular topic of conversation is the dress code. So in sixth form, you're not wearing a school uniform. You're allowed to wear your own clothes, but there are some limitations to that. So our dress code is designed to meet certain objectives. Firstly, it's about you dressing in a way that's practical for the subjects you're studying. Okay. Um, Secondly, it's about dressing in a way that's compliant with health and safety requirements. But it's also about allowing you to express your individuality and your sense of identity. We want our sixth forms to be an open and a creative environment where people feel comfortable to be themselves. It's also about maintaining a safe and inclusive environment, so being respectful of the different backgrounds and beliefs that we might have amongst our staff and our students. It's about preparing you for the diverse expectations of dress in the modern workplace. Not everyone dresses the same in different careers these days. And it's also about presenting an appropriate image of the school. So when we see people coming into the school and leaving, we want to really inspire confidence in staff, in students, in parents, and amongst the local community. So those are the things we're aiming for with our rules. That's the kind of logic behind the decisions that we've made with regard to our dress code. So we've got some do's and don'ts here. So you can wear your coat when you're entering or leaving school. Things like t-shirts, blouses, shirts, polo shirts are fine. Sweatshirts, cardigans, fleeces, hoodies, skirts, dresses, shorts of a reasonable length. Smart shoes, trainers that are in a good state of repair, subtle piercings. Sportswear if you're doing a practical lesson like PE or drama. Denim that's not ripped or torn. Religious dress that doesn't cover the face. And all clothing, whatever it is, needs to be clean and in a good state of repair. The things that we don't allow are sunglasses, hats, and raised hoods inside, really sort of extreme piercings or visible body piercings and tattoos, clothing that's got any offensive slogans or images on it, sort of visible underwear, excessively high heels, anything that's torn or damaged. We don't allow coats inside. A lot of these things are sort of, I think, quite common sense, and it does still give you a lot of freedom. We have given you quite a lot of freedom there, so we do take the rules that we do have for the dress code relatively seriously. If you don't quite get it right at the beginning of year 12, we'll just have a quiet word with you and ask you not to wear that particular item again. If it persists, then we might send people home. Another kind of policy we have in the sixth form is about bringing your own device. So we really encourage sixth form students to bring their electronic devices to school, like laptops and tablets. One thing that we've really learned through our remote learning that we've been doing over the last few months is how amazing the technology is that's available to support learning. We do use Google Classroom for setting work. You will have a school email, so it is important that you have access to electronic resources. Often you'll use these devices in your work periods to support your learning. Some of you may also wish to use them in lessons. We do have IT facilities available within the sixth form. We have Chromebooks and iPads for you to borrow as well. But bringing your own is a good idea, particularly at the moment when we're having to be careful about sharing equipment with regards to hygiene. If you are bringing your own device, you will have to use it responsibly though. And in your enrolment packs that you'll be receiving soon, there is a responsible user agreement that you will be signing up to. So beyond those sort of basic kind of rules and procedures we have, there'll be lots more of those that you'll be finding out about in September. The other thing that we want to talk about here is sort of your progression beyond sixth form and the things that we do to help you prepare for that. One of those things is work experience. So all year 12 students complete 1 week of work experience in June, so a placement at a particular employer. And we work with an external work experience provider, KREBP, the Kingston Enrichment Education Business Partnership, who are experts in organising work experience. And they work with us and with you to support the organisation of work experience and to quality assure the placements that you have to make sure they're really good. We normally run a launch event for that work experience program in September and have all sorts of guest speakers in from a range of different industries. The exact nature of that event might vary a little bit this year depending on sort of the social distancing that we have to do, but we will still be running something. And throughout the year, we'll then have sessions on employability skills, one-to-one support to help you organise your placements. When you do the placement, you'll have to complete a sort of diary of what you've done and an evaluation of the placement. And the work experience is absolutely crucial. It really helps to enhance your university applications. There's a lot to be learnt from that process of trying to arrange the placement and approach employers. It's brilliant to have a taste of what the real world of work is like and really helps to prepare you for actually going out as an adult into employment as well. We have lots of leadership opportunities in the sixth form as well for students. So we have a head boy and a head girl. We have a wider sixth form student leadership team who have quite a lot of freedom to represent the interests of students and to organise all sorts of different events, charity fundraising, things like that. Sixth form students are still part of the whole school student parliament. We have form captains who can lead sort of sessions in their tutor group. We have the opportunity through our volunteering programme of supporting in lower school lessons as a student teaching assistant. We run mentoring programmes where sixth form students mentor some of our younger students. And we also have sports leaders as well, sort of captaining our sports teams. So lots of opportunities to develop those leadership skills. UCAS, which are University Applications and Apprenticeships, are also really important for us. All routes through sixth form lead to university apprenticeships or employment. All of you will go on to one of those three things once you finish sixth form. And a big part of what we're doing through your sixth form experience is preparing you for one or more of those routes. So we have a really diverse programme of workshops, taster sessions, trips and visits, guest speakers that are really designed to help you identify your aspirations and prepare you for making a competitive application to whatever it is that you want to do. We also have specific support programs for things like medicine, for Oxford and Cambridge applications, and so on. And to support you with kind of identifying what it is you want to do and making sure that you're really in a position to do a competitive application, you're able to see one of our trained careers advisors for a one-to-one appointment at any time. We can support you with booking that. The final thing that I really want to talk to you about in terms of life in the sixth form is emotional well-being. And this is at the heart of everything we do. People perform at their best academically when they're working from a foundation of really good emotional well-being. It's something you need to look after and prioritise all the time. So these images are sort of an indication of the various feelings you might have at different points during sixth form. So there might be some tiredness and exhaustion, some sort of jubilation, some fear and anxiety, some sadness, and also some frustration and anger. And that's a normal part of the sixth form experience. It's normal to have difficult thoughts, feelings, and emotions. But the important thing is you know that we're there to support you. And the best way of us supporting you is if you're honest with us about how you're feeling. You open up to us, you let us help you, and then you're receptive to the advice that we give you. There are lots of people to support your emotional well-being in the sixth form. You've got your form tutor who you see every day, your head of year who and me, your head of sixth form. We all have an open door policy. You can come and see us at any time. We've got the school nurse. We can arrange mentoring. We have school counsellors. And I put a few numbers in there as well as we go off into the summer holidays soon for off the record counselling service, for Childline, for Samaritans as well. Samaritans being if you are having sort of feelings of wanting to harm yourself, feeling suicidal, those numbers are there for you to support you through that summer period as well. Please remember that we all want to help you, and probably more than ever, there'll be people in need of that help after the difficult time that you've had over the last few months. So please come and speak to us. Please be open and honest with us. I'm going to give you a sort of particular wellbeing warning in relation to the time that you're having off now in lockdown and the weeks ahead over the summer holidays about prioritising your well-being. You know, it's really easy in this when you're not in school and you don't have that routine and focus for your sleeping patterns to go somewhat awry. And it's not uncommon for us to have students arriving in September who are essentially nocturnal, and you've got into the habit of staying up very, very late and then getting up in the middle of the afternoon. And that might seem all right in the school holidays, but then it's a real shock to the system when school starts and you have to get up really early in the morning. And you almost end up sort of with a form of jet lag, but without the bonus of having been on holiday at the start of school, where you're just not used to having to get up at a certain time in the morning. And that means that you're not going to be able to make the most of your sixth form experience. You won't enjoy those first few days and weeks. You won't be learning effectively in those first few lessons. So really think carefully about trying to maintain a sort of sensible sleeping pattern over the summer holidays. This summer between sort of year 11 and 12 is also often a time when people are getting a little bit more freedom. There's parties to go to. People often go off to things like music festivals. And of course, coronavirus has sort of disrupted some of those plans. But remember that when you're socialising in that way, which is part of growing up, that there are risks and dangers attached to that as well. and it's really important to be aware of the dangers of drugs and alcohol and things like that. So I would really encourage you, if you are going out, to make sure you've told your parents where you're going, to make sure you've got their permission to go, to make sure that you've planned very carefully how you're getting home and you're using a proper licensed taxi company, that you are avoiding those kind of obvious dangerous things like drugs, and you're being very careful with things like alcohol and so on, that you stay with your friends at all time and don't wander off by yourself. Okay, please remember that there's lots and lots of time in your life to enjoy yourself, but you're only going to be able to have that time and that freedom if you're using it carefully and responsibly now. Okay, and remember over the summer holidays as well that often the foundation of good emotional well-being is making sure that you've got a happy home environment, and so it's about being nice to your siblings, to your family as well. So please look after yourself. I want to see you in September in good condition, ready and raring to go for the start of sixth form. So moving on then to enrolment day in the summer, you'll shortly be receiving an enrolment pack in the next few days, and that's going to contain a few pieces of information. It will contain the logistics and organisation of enrolment day, so exactly what will be happening on the day itself, copies of various sixth form policies, some of which I've talked a little bit about here, various documents and forms that need to be completed and returned to us on enrolment day. Please make sure that when the pack comes that you and your parents read it very carefully. You'll also then be sent an appointment time to come and enrol with us in August, and that will be calculated according to our oversubscription criteria. So we enrol you in a very particular order. We're spreading enrolment over 2 days this year. So we're going to be doing our internal applicants, that's our current Waldegrave Year 11 students, on Thursday the 20th of August from midday. That's GCSE results day. And our external applicants, so people joining us from other schools, the following day on Friday the 21st of August from 10 a.m. We are going to do that enrolment day in person, so that you're able to have those kind of important face-to-face conversations with staff as you're making your decisions about your course choices and so on. But we are going to be doing it with social distancing in place, and that's why we spread it over 2 days. So we're saying that only the applicant themselves, so you the student, and one parent or carer are invited to attend. If you're shielding and you're not able to come and join us in person, please do let us know by the 19th of August at the latest, so that we can arrange a remote version of enrolment for you instead. Normally, if we were doing this event in person, there'd be an opportunity for questions at this stage. I would encourage you to make sure that you've watched this video thoroughly, and to make sure that you've joined in with the kind of experience that we've offered you, the information we've given you about the various subjects we have on offer. If you then still have questions, you're very welcome to get in touch with us via the sixthform@waldegrave.org.uk email address, and we'll either give you an answer in writing by return email, or we can arrange a phone call if necessary. So thank you very much for listening. I want to end exactly as I began, by saying that I'm really looking forward to welcoming you all in September. The start of the year, meeting all the new people, is one of my favourite bits of the job. I can't wait for it. I hope you're looking forward to it too. And remember, if you are feeling nervous, that's absolutely normal, but we're all here to support you, and we're going to be working very hard to get the best possible outcomes for you. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.